If you look at the first sheet, the blue sheet for schedule, after I'm done, we're going to have talk about the big picture, short description of that, and then a description of the roles of the guests. Each guest has to sign, their family has to sign a contract which basically spells out the kind of behavior that is expected. Then we're going to get into the meat of the program, which is the roles of the shelter volunteer, talk about the 3 shifts and some of the other things that go along with that, what you're expected to do for each given shift. And then finally we're going to allow for about 35 minutes of questions and answers so that people have an opportunity to find out some things that they've been wondering about. Tonight, Karen Fitzpatrick, Sally Krupich, Marla Simmet, and Cheryl Peterson will be talking about these various topics. And first of all, we would like to open with a prayer which is on the back of the blue sheet. And we can start from the top, from Isaiah 58, and we can all say this together. Is not this the fast that I choose, to loose the bounds of injustice, to share your bread with the hungry, and bring the homeless poor into your house? O God, grant us the grace to be generous with our time, caring in our hearts, and gentle in our demeanor, as we spend time in our shelter for homeless families. May our guest families find their stay to be pleasant and peaceful, a respite from the turmoil and uncertainty of being without a place to call home. May we be an extension of your love to ease their burdens. We ask this in Jesus' name, amen. And Karen Fitzpatrick will talk about the big picture.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How's this? Can you hear in the back? My brothers always said, you don't even need a microphone. You. Why are you here? Your church called you for it? You responded because you heard the voice of God calling you through the Christian community? Or are you here because you paid attention to the media focus on the growing number of homeless families in our suburbs? Your heart is touched. You feel a sense of compassion, a desire to respond, to be of help, to be the person who can comfort, who can stand beside, who can listen. This is you. This is why you are here. Now, who are the homeless families who are coming to the shelter? Where are they from? Perhaps they have been living here in Washington County, in Stillwater or St. Paul Park, in Hugo or Forest Lake, in Oakdale or St. Croix Beach. Some are from eastern Ramsey County, from Maplewood perhaps, or North St. Paul, or White Bear Lake. When suburban families find themselves homeless, it is often due to foreclosure, or if they were living in rental property, due to job loss or high medical bills. Losing their homes or apartments, they are taken in at first by extended family or friends. But with time, the welcome wears out, and they try to stay in their cars or camp in a park. They are embarrassed by their situation, and they try to remain anonymous to hide the fact they are homeless. Eventually, they seek help. Many land at St. Andrew's Community Resource Center in Matamidi. The program at the CRC can take up to 6 families They are housed now at the Live-In Inn and Suites, and soon they will be here with us in the house just across the north parking lot, beginning on Labor Day. How many of you have already had a tour of the parish house? Wonderful, well over half. There are more coming. Our guest families will be with us 18 hours each day, from 3 p.m. to 9 a.m. the following morning. The 6 hours they are at St. Andrews is their work time. They look for jobs if they don't already have one, and then they look for housing, for apartments, all the while keeping an eye on their children during these summer days. When we open on Labor Day afternoon, it's the day before school begins. Homeless children in Minnesota have the right to go to school the same place where they were before they were displaced. So the school transportation vehicles will be coming from multiple districts to pick them up. About 25% of the families are employed, and their children are usually spending their days at whatever daycare they were in before they became homeless. The most common family size is a mother and 2 children. But there are 2-parent families and some larger families requiring 2 bedrooms. The shelter has 7 rooms prepared, so we will have room for the larger families. All the professional services are at St. Andrews. They do the intake interview, the background check, and the case management. The parents work hard while they're at the Community Resource Center. When we get them, it's time for them to relax with their kids, to enjoy a nourishing home-cooked meal, to take a break from the stress, to rest in the lovely rooms prepared for them. It is your presence that makes this possible. Since March, our focus has been on the material needs, the shelter building and its renovation, communicating needs here among Guardian Angels people and out in the wider community, planning the food and the kitchen utensils and supplies, gathering furniture and all the many items families need, recruiting volunteers, and finally tonight bringing us together to prepare. Now our focus can move to our guest families. Now you, the volunteer staff, step up to begin the task of sheltering the homeless, a primary biblical call, a work of mercy. A few days ago, this thank you note from a formerly homeless family was received in Matamidi, and it says, "To St. Andrew's Lutheran Church, first giving thanks to God and all that God has done for me and my family. I've been in the program since June 12th, 2012. Thanks to Pastor Sarah, along with Kelly and Liz, Erica, and especially Chris, who helped me as a woman and helped my family get back on our feet. We are very thankful." In closing, I would just like to add that anyone that comes to this center, don't misuse or abuse this church, this center, or God's people, because this is a special place of peace and refuge. And most importantly, this is God's shelter. Our prayer, and she signs her name, thanks a million, Janelle and family. Our prayer tonight is that our guest families will experience that same sense of peace and refuge here. That this is God's sheltering arms around them in the person of the volunteer staff, you. May God bless who you are and all that you are about to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, and thank everybody for coming. This is really heartwarming to see so many people here. Tonight I'm going to start out by going through some of the guidelines that we have for our guests that are coming. The handouts that you will receive Will, I would hope that maybe if you have people at your church that are not able to make the training, that they could, you could share these with them so they could see them. We'd like to have the people have a chance to look these over before they come. There will be a handbook in the shelter that's going to have even more complete information in it for emergencies and the like, but right now we thought it would be important to highlight some of the things on these sheets that you can take with you. And I'm going to be going over some of the guidelines for the guests. All the guests coming will check in at St. Andrew's Church. They will be screened there, and they will these guidelines will be gone over with them, where they will have to sign off on them, that they agree to follow them. I'm not going to read them word for word, I'm just going to kind of highlight them. I'm looking at the gold sheet that is in your packet. Food will be supplied by the shelter. They are not to bring any other food here. If they have snacks or things they bought along the way, they're to leave them over at St. Andrew's. That's the Community Resource Center. It says CRC, but that's Community Resource Center. Helping out, we expect each guest adult guest to sign up to help with a job every day at the shelter. That could be maybe setting the table, emptying the trash, doing something like that. And we also expect them all to help clean the bathrooms. One bathroom shares with 3 families, so take their turn, but some of them have their own bathroom in their room, and we would like them to do their own cleaning of the bathroom. Shirts and shoes and slippers and socks have to be worn at all times. No bare feet. The shelter does not have much space, so bring only what is essential for you and your children, and orderly. The beds and linens and towels are each family's responsibility to launder as needed, and if possible, at the end of the stay, if they have time before they leave, to do their laundry. We are going to have a wonderful laundry facility with 2 washers and 2 dryers, and they'll be able to sign up to do their own personal laundry as well as to help with their sheets. Children must be present, adult must be present with their children at all times, unless the children are clearly under the supervision of an adult volunteer staff member. But we would like to have the parents with the children at all times. We will have some opportunities maybe where there'll be an activity, but we really want the parents with the children. It's not your job to be babysitting the kids. So, and for legal reasons, we would like to have the parents there also with the kids. Smoking is not allowed in the building, and we're going to have a designated area right outside the garage, and we're going to put 2 little chairs there and have one of those little smoking depots that you can deposit the cigarettes in, but that's the only place where they can smoke on the whole church property. The designated times for retiring to their bedrooms are 9 o'clock during the week and 10 o'clock on weekends. And then we're going to ask that the lights are turned out by 9:30 and 10:30 respectively, and that people do not use their cell phones after that time unless it's an emergency. But we want the general feeling in the house to be one of quiet. Staff members reserve the right to knock and enter any room at any time. The rooms will have locks on them, but in case of an emergency, our volunteer staff will have a pass key where if you heard something in there that did not sound right to you, you would have a right to go into the room. Upon leaving this home, when you complete the program, please take all of your belongings with you. There's no room to leave anything, so they have to take it all with them. And no visitors are allowed at the shelter. Some people may have people picking them up to go someplace, and this isn't a prison. They will be able to go with people, but they need to sign out when they're going and when they will be returning. And we ask that to be respectful and come back at a decent time before the shelter closes, if at all possible. And then we have them say, failure to follow these guidelines could result in dismissal from the program. It's a could, because you know, there are some certain things that are more minor than others, and so, but these are the rules that they will adhere to according to this guidelines.
So that was about our guests, and now we're going to talk about what you all are going to do. I'm going to reference the volunteer shifts and sheets by color. So if you can find the purple one, this is an overview of the times, and it highlights the responsibility of each shift. On the back, there's a lovely poem on kindness, and I would encourage you all to read it. You guys all self-selected, right? You came here because you want to be here and because you felt called. This is about you. There's a saying attributed to St. Francis that says, preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words, right? So that's what you'll be giving to our guests, is the profound gift of being present. And that's what this poem talks about. So take a moment with that, maybe when you get home, because now I'm going to whip through some other colors. I want to highlight the Partner Congregation Volunteer Coordinator, and you know who you are if you are that. You are from your church. For us, this is Gary. Gary, can you stand up? Thank you, Gary. And for other churches, it's the person who puts in the extra time coordinating the volunteers, making sure they get the information they need, making sure that if they don't get to training, they get all of that information, that the background check gets done, that they call the volunteers either the day before or the day of. They are in touch with our orientation coordinators at the shelter who will orient staff. So they are folks that are the contact at every church. In addition, there's a food piece, and so they are talking to their volunteers about the dinners for the week, and then they are in touch with our orientation coordinators about that food piece too. So that's the volunteer coordinator. Then I want you to find the white sheet. The white sheet is the afternoon shift host. And here we're going to start talking about the times. So if you are a volunteer for the afternoon shift, you come at 2:45, and you're going to be greeted again by our staff, who is the orientation, who is called a shelter orientation coordinator. And that shelter orientation coordinator is going to give you a tour of the facility, tell you a little bit about what is expected, and then also introduce you to the guests as they come. And your job when you're there is to make the guests feel welcome, to play with the kids. It's pretty well laid out there. The responsibilities are pretty clear there. We're going to have times for questions, so I'm going to keep moving along here. So that's the afternoon shift host. I want you to find the dinner shift host. You know, one of the things I did say, for every shift, you'll see that there's some overlap, and completing the daily log, we want every shift member, there will be a handbook that will contain emergency information that we're going to go over later, and a log, and also this log that you'll write in things that are needed, or anything that's of significant during your shift. So that's every shift. I just wanted to go over that too. So then the yellow sheet is the dinner shift host, and there is this is the shift that interacts with both the afternoon and the overnight. So they're there from 4:30 to 8:30. So they will, our orientation, shelter orientation coordinator will still be there, and so they will interact with that staff person and will be oriented especially to the kitchen. because as you can see, one of their primary tasks then is to make sure that the dinner goes smoothly. And so they're going to welcome you and orient you to some of the safe food, what's the word I want? There you go, protocols. And then they will also introduce you to the guests, and then you will finish or do what you need to do to prepare the dinner, and invite the families to help, that they will have help with cleanup when it's all done and tidy up the kitchen. And then in addition, one of your other tasks will be to welcome the overnight shift, because by then our part-time staff will have left, and your job will be to welcome the overnight shelter guests, and that's on the tan sheet, and really introduce them to the guests and give them a tour of the facility. So by then you will be very comfortable, because in addition to dinner, after dinner is cleaned up, you will have time then to play with the kids, to interact with the parents, and that would be the dinner shift host. Now the overnight shift, you come at 8, so you have some time to spend with the families. That would be interacting with the adults and playing, but really you're going to be winding down, as my mom used to say right before bedtime, winding down with the kids. And we're even going to encourage a bedtime routine. And if you're on the overnight shift, you're going to encourage that routine to be followed, you know, some more quiet activities, some reading, moving towards bedtime with some family rituals or family time together. And then you are, Sally mentioned the night times. You're going to kind of be in charge of encouraging folks to head off to their rooms, and then encouraging them to turn off their lights and lights out. One of the things you want to do is check in with families about what time they want to get up. You'll notice there's some times on here. They're not hard and fast. If you have a kid who isn't leaving for school until 8:30, they probably don't have to get up at 6. So some of those are per family and per some time, you know, what they need. They do need to get up in time to get ready for the day, and one of your jobs then is to get up in the morning and prepare the continental breakfast, put out cereal, have the toast ready, the juice, and then to clean up from that. But the times aren't really that hard and fast. So there's a couple of other things I wanted to mention, and that is when you sign up for a shift, if you can't make it, and we know that happens, right? There are things that come up that you can't make it. Your first responsibility is to try and find your own substitute from the list of volunteers within your church, because those are volunteers that have gone through training like this and have done the background check. If you can't, then you need to get a hold of that really important volunteer coordinator and make sure that that somebody at your church is working on getting your shift replacement. That's really an important thing, and we want to encourage you to do that. I want you to flip all those colors over so that you can see, while we're not able to tour the facility tonight because of the renovations. I want you to see that we have highlighted all of the different levels at the parish house. The first level has some of the bedrooms, and then the host room where the overnight shift will be staying. The second level is where the majority of the bedrooms are, and the lower level is where the kitchen, the eating area, and the communal area is for playing and conversing. And also the laundry room is on the lower level. So that, I apologize that you can't go get a tour tonight, but you kind of get an idea of the floor plan. In addition, in a week from this weekend, on the 26th, we're having an open house for our parish here. And if you're not from Guardian Angels and still haven't had a tour, we're going to be having tours all that morning from 6:30, don't come at 6:30, from 8:30 to 12:30. So after, we have a 7:30 mass. So coming at 8:30 to 12:30, any time during that period, you can get a tour if you haven't seen it yet. You know, there's a couple of important things that we do with the families. We're present to them, we play with the kids, we feed them as best we can, but we're not there to solve problems, right? We're not there to provide counseling, we're not there to provide any ministering, we're not there to be their brother or sister. We're there to be present, and we're there to be friends. And it's important to recognize there are times when they might need more. And luckily for us, there are people that can give them more. There are folks at St. Andrews in particular that are there, and they're beyond St. Andrews, there's a lot of different resources that the folks at St. Andrews know about. So I think it's really important, if you feel called to do more, to be more, it's important to let our shelter orientation coordinator know about that, so that they can make sure that that family or that person gets the resources they need. Again, we don't need to do that. We don't need to be all those different things to these families. We just need to make sure that they have an opportunity to find the right person that they do need.
I always feel it's necessary to tell you that this is a one-year pilot program that we will be evaluating at the end of the year and evaluating all through the year. And by signing on as volunteers, you're also signing on to be flexible, because I'm sure there'll be many changes that will have to be made as we go along. It'll be kind of trial and error. So even some of this information that you have here may need to be changed as we go along. So and none of this is really written in stone. We tried really hard to get it all firmed up, but we are not the only ones making decisions. We have other agencies involved, and sometimes they get back to us and change their mind, and sometimes they, have rules that we're trying to get them to change for us, and so we have been working on it. But please keep that in mind, that if something changes, we've done our best to keep it the same, but it was out of necessity. Another little thing I wanted to tell you, since you're not getting to go over to the parish house tonight, is that for those of you who were there before, that kitchen looks fabulous. It's so surprising when you go look at it that it was so tiny, and when we were all looking at it, we said, what's this going to be like? It looks just wonderful with the cupboards and the appliances in, and it's just really, really looks great. So it's going to be a lot nicer than I think a lot of us anticipated. I'm going to talk for just a minute about the Virtus or Safe Sanctuary training, which is on the pink sheet. It's on the back of one of the volunteer coordinator sheet. The Archdiocese of Minneapolis-St. Paul requires that anyone working with children have training in Virtus. We are recommending that all our volunteers have some kind of training in either Virtus or Safe Sanctuary, Safe Church, whatever you have at your church. We would like you to have that training. Any denomination may take the Virtus course, and I have put some training dates on this sheet for you of where they're going to be. There's no charge to it. It says that it's 3 hours. The class I went to is an hour and a half, and I was just talking to the lady from our church that organizes this, and she said it's generally about 2 hours, so you can plan about that time. It's very, very interesting. You'll find, if you have not had it, you'll find it fascinating, and it's really important for anybody who works with children or deals with children and the safety of the children. You can sign up online, and it tells you exactly how to do it right there in that very small print, which I was trying to get it all on this page, so that it ended up being kind of small. But get your magnifying glass out to help you read that, and you can sign them online. Sometimes they take walk-ins. So you could take your chance, and if you didn't get a chance to sign up beforehand, you could try showing up and maybe they would accept you there. But we highly recommend it. But if you do not feel that you can come to Virtus, check with your church to see what kind of a program they have. And now Cheryl Peterson is our new Justice and Outreach Coordinator at our church, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about the background checks.
Okay, one more thing about the Virtus training. If you're gonna do the Virtus, you kind of have to sign up online because that's how they somehow in the Archdiocese kind of give you that stamp of approval that you've gone through this training. And so the whole piece about the Virtus training or the Safe Child training and the background check, it's because we really do want to protect the kids. And while you saw in the Gold Shelter guidelines for the families, there really are supposed to be parents with their kids all the time. However, here's what we know in a venture like this, is that if something happens that is at all, not well intended, and I know all of you in this room are well intended, there will be an issue. So this is where the whole background check piece comes in. I would love to tell you that we have all the details on this, but of course when you're dealing with a very large organization, all those details aren't exactly clear. So I'll tell you what I know for sure right now. If you are a member of Guardian Angels, you have to have a background check. We'll run it through the parish, make sure you get one, and make sure you go to the Virtus training. If you are a member of another Catholic church, you have to have a background check, and you have to have the Virtus training, and go through your own church. If you are a member of another congregation, and you haven't had background checks, we really do strongly encourage them. If your church can't run them, we can run them here. They cost $22 a pop. In a way, this kind of protects you. How many of you are teachers here? Like at almost any public school now, you can't coach practically without a background check. So this isn't like out of the ordinary stuff. It's for any time we're dealing with kids, people have to have background checks. So if you're a non-Catholic congregation, if you think that the background check piece is going to be problematic, get back to me. For Catholic congregations, you don't have to send us copies of your background checks. If we get a letter from your pastor or administrator certifying that all the volunteers for the week have had their background checks, we're fine. For the non-Catholic churches, we're hoping that the same sort of thing will suffice, that a letter from your pastor or business administrator certifying that people have had background checks and Safe Child training will suffice kind of for insurance and liability purposes. If there's anything about any of that is problematic, call me. I'm going to leave business cards at the table back there, and as your parish gets ready, as your congregation gets ready to serve, you can call me, because all of this is going to be kind of finalized more in the days to come. So, was that clear? I told you what I knew. I kind of told you what I don't know. But that's where we're at right now.
And some of the other churches that I have been emailing with and corresponding with, if you want to email me and ask me something regarding the background checks, I can forward it on to Cheryl for you. Another thing, that she is on staff here, and I have no official position at all, and so everything she says is true. Don't pay attention to everything I said. Like, I had talked to someone in charge of the Virtus who told me that they could do walk-ins, and I see that's not true, and it says it right here. Be sure to sign up online. So that is true. Ignore the part about walking in.
Oh, you can probably walk in. I just can't guarantee that you're going to get the, that it's going to get recorded. And you kind of want that. Thanks.
This last little piece is the catch-all. all the little things that didn't get their own heading. These are called policies and procedures. And you have sheets to go with some of these. The white sheet, volunteer kitchen guidelines. This is the beginning of this. You're going to hear a lot more before you actually cook. Everyone who's working here as a volunteer should read this page. If you're on the second shift where you use the kitchen a lot, you're going to receive more than this through your volunteer, your church volunteer coordinating person will be getting more things to you on this, but you do have this much as a starter. Medical concerns. Oh, Sally, I forgot to bring up the white notebook. If you could bring up the white notebook. Believe it or not, I don't know if this is good or bad. I mean, it's good that we have this, but it's bad that these things are, that shelters are so prevalent in our country now. Thank you. That these exist. This is called the Medical Protocol for Shelters. And when I found out there was such a thing, I thought, oh, that indicates how endemic homelessness is in our country, that all this work has been done. But this will be in the volunteer room. The first room right inside the front door had been in the Rectory days a parlor for young couples to come and get ready for their wedding or whatever. It's just a beautiful little room. And that's going to be where the volunteers check in, that they're on site. And it's a place where you will find a lot of things that you need. And one of the things will be in there is this book. And it has a page on just about every ailment you could run into with families. So it'll be helpful for you and the parents who are there with you to check something out. And then it was looked over by a physician in our parish. And his recommendation was, well, use it when you need to. And in the back, he said there's a couple wonderful pages that indicate all the things that require exclusion. So if this is what it's perceived the child has, it means they have to be excluded from the rest of the community. It means they need to move to a motel to prevent contagion spreading throughout the shelter. So this will be a book that'll be a very valuable resource when you are working. So it's called The Medical Protocol. Moving on to emergencies. There will be an emergency checklist. It's not yet completed, but we have a start on it. It's on the back of your evaluation form. We're going to collect the evaluation form, which means we're going to collect this because it's not complete, and we didn't want you to have this in the state it's in, but at least you can look at what it might look like when we get it finished. But it will have day and night phone for Kelly Cardinal, who is the overall manager of the St. Andrews program, and in the final analysis is the final person responsible for these families, even when they're over here with us. So if you ran into a very serious emergency where somebody had not just to go see a doctor, you know, or to get after hours urgent care for a cold, but if you have someone that has to be rushed by taxi to an emergency room, Kelly wants to be notified. If you have an adult in your household who is defying the guidelines on serious matters and needs to be put out of the program, Kelly is the person that needs to be notified. So her information will be there. We have our two site coordinators, Suzanne Schmidt and Erica Boise. They share a part-time job, so whatever day you come, one of them will be here from 2:30 to 5. So that person's here when you arrive, and they stay through orienting the dinner shift to the kitchen, and then they leave at 5 o'clock. But if you have an urgent need to find something out, you will have their contact information. And you would call the person that has been serving that particular day, and they'll divide the 7 days, 4 and 3, between the two of them. Other things on here would be people you need to reach for your own church, and this part would be updated as we go through the year. And as you see, Cheryl had some fun making up some churches that might be here on some of those days. And then there's the transportation company, and also there'll be phone numbers for taxis for St. Andrews for during the day when they're still open, other things like that. And this will be completed before you actually serve. Moving on.
Can we have Suzanne stand up?
Oh, Suzanne is here, that's right.
Right here.
Here she is. Suzanne is one of our 2 staff members. Suzanne Schmidt's a member of Guardian Angels and is well known to many of you from this congregation. Our other staff person, Erica, is a member of St. Andrews and is currently a volunteer there in the homeless shelter. So they're both coming to us with wonderful background and wonderful skills to help us. The logbook will be another notebook that will be in that room I mentioned to the right as you come in the front door. And our guests and all of us the rest of the time will be using the back door to go in and out, but we'll use the front door when you come in for your shift because that's where your logbook is. And that's where you be sure to sign your name when your shift is over. And it has places for you to leave notes if you want something ordered for food or other items. This is on the white sheet in your packet on the back of the food. And this is a sample. It says in the middle this is a draft. Notice how you even write down number of families, number of guests. You count the women, the men, and the children. 5 of us from the shelter leadership attended a 3-hour workshop this morning at Second Harvest. And this is one of the places that data goes, because in order to be eligible for free food, they need to keep records. How many women were served, how many men, how many children this age, how many children this age. So all of these records go into various places, not with names, it's confidential, but numbers like that are what end up with the government and allow us to get access to the Farm Bill free food that will be available to us. To even list your snacks served, the meals served, as you move through this. And then at the bottom, you see so many places for so many names, and of course the shifts are only 2 people. But many times people like to bring their teenage or older children along for the daytime shifts, and then just add their names on here. And sometimes there'll be other people who come in during that time because they have a skill to offer. They might be a school, might be a teacher or a teacher aide that's going to do some homework help. So all those people that are a part of your shift would go in the logbook. Let's see. Checklists. Anything else that you need to check off would be in the logbook. And then locking up in the morning after the school, various transportation vehicles. There won't be big buses coming very often. There'll probably be taxis taking the 1 child here and 2 kids there to the various school districts. When they're gone, the van will come and take the parents. And then to close up the building, you would simply walk through all the rooms. You have a master key, you have access to a master key, that you would make sure lights are out, that there aren't wet towels lying on the mattress, and there's no water running in the bathroom, and that all the doors are locked so the people's belongings are safely kept in there. And then you'll be able to leave that key for the next shift in the place assigned for it, which you'll find out at that point. And then close the back door and the front door. And the door can be locked from the inside, so you're able to get out and leave the building locked. About 15 minutes after you're gone, the maintenance crew will come in and empty the trash and the diaper buckets and all those things. Is there anything on that list I didn't cover? Got it all? Marla has something.
There were 2 things that actually I didn't cover. And one is that if you're on that dinner shift, everybody, all of our guests are invited to St. Andrews on Thursday. And so we will be doing per week 6 meals, not 7 meals. And on that outside possibility that somebody doesn't want to go to St. Andrews, the transportation's provided. They will get picked up around 5:30. The meal is 6 to 7. They'll be back before 7:30. So that dinner shift still needs to come on Thursday. If all the families don't go, that will be left overnight, just like it sometimes is at my house, left overnight. So the other thing is that I didn't mention is that all of our guests, all the doors to the bedrooms will have locks, right? And all of our guests will have a key on a wristband, so that when they come in the afternoon, and they have St. Paul bedroom, they will have a key to their room. Sally mentioned that if you're a volunteer, you'll have a master key, but they'll have a key to their room that they'll get when they come, and then so that if you're on the afternoon shift, you'll be there when they grab their key, and then if you're on the overnight shift, one of your responsibilities will be making sure all those keys are back on the keychain before they leave, so that they leave those keys there, right? Because we'll need to have all those keys present. I think we're maybe ready to move towards question and answer, because
on your overnight shift, it says 8 p.m. to 7 a.m., which is different than it was a couple weeks ago. I mean, is that something changed there, and 9 a.m. on weekends?
It's supposed to say 8 p.m. to 9 a.m. the following morning. And then if that's a problem for you, and if you work or you have commitment, it might well be, then you need to find somebody who can come for a couple hours in the morning, or possibly talk to your volunteer coordinator at your church. We're trying to develop some volunteers who can come in the morning, because some of those buses come late.
We had planned till 9 a.m. It's just that this said something different.
I didn't realize it said that. Can everybody change that to 9 a.m.? I'm glad you caught that.
And one other thing is, the last time I was here, we were talking about like 4:30 to 6:30 Sunday night, and the following Saturday night when it's closed all day for the people to serve the meal.
Right, so on weekends, if you're talking about weekends, we still, part of what we need at Guardian Angels is to have this house available for multi-purpose use during the day. So this is an evening and an overnight shelter. And so guests, even on weekends, will be leaving by 9 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday and returning at 3.
I'm not on that anymore.
Okay, sorry.
Now I'm on. You have you talked about one shift from 4:50 from. What do you
I know what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, that time has been changed. St. Andrews did not want them to return at 5 o'clock. We said on weekends they were going to return at 5 o'clock, and St. Andrews said no, they want them to return at 3. So it's going to be every day they'll be coming to the shelter at 3. That has been a change, and that wasn't our doing. It was St. Andrews said they put the kibosh on that. So, okay.
As you can
It's
see,
one of those flexible times.
this is a work in progress.
I just want to follow up on that, because someday I'm going to anticipate a question. A lot of people are curious as to then what do the families do between 9 and 3 on Saturday and Sunday. And that too is something we're still trying to figure out. So that, again, that parish house is multi-purpose use, and so between 9 and 3 the families won't be there, and we are seeking funds for transportation, and so we're still trying to determine what exactly we can offer the families.
Got a question over here? All right.
My question is, when everything is turned off at night and it's bedtime, are there going to be night lights to kind of show the path? Okay, good.
Yes, in the hallways, there are going to be some night lights going along the hallway so they can see.
Okay, that's good.
Barb?
We help with the food, when we sign up for the dinner hour or whatever, does all the food have to be cooked on site, or can we bring it already cooked?
Okay. Food is going to be, all questions pertaining to food are going to be.
We figured we're going to have a lot of food questions, so we're going to put that in the parking lot because we'll try to cover those all at the end. So if you have a question that's not related to food, let's hit those first, because then we can kind of group all those food questions together and hopefully kind of get them all at once, because that's probably a big area of curiosity.
Well, I have a question here too about do you have enough blankets and linens? Are they to bring their own, or do you need more?
Well, they don't have to bring their own. The only thing that the guests will come with is about 1 bag per person. right? And we're doing pretty well on blankets and sheets. We don't need any more donations, but thank you. I'm looking at the person coordinating that, and she's giving me the answers. So thank you for thinking of that, though.
Are we able to pick them up Sunday morning and take them to our church?
You know, an invitation to your church is wonderful. We are providing transportation on the weekends. We are in touch with the same transportation company that St. Andrews is using, and we'll be using that. We're not, for liability purpose, we're not encouraging the congregations to transport folks themselves, but an invitation to your facility for worship, and then maybe even for activities through the day. 9 to 3 is not that long, and so if you brought them there for worship, it'd be really nice to keep them until 3. Invite them. Keep them sounds terrible. So, you know what I mean.
Will adult guests who are inclined to attend Guardian Angels, Alcoholics, or Narcotics Anonymous meetings be permitted to do so?
Well, gosh, I would think so. It hasn't been brought up before.
I mean, my assumption is that they're coming with children. So there would be a period of an hour or more in which they would be in our parish building and the children would be in the home.
Oh, well then probably not. You know, that hasn't been brought up before. One of the things that we didn't mention is that there will be a council of folks from Guardian Angels and St. Andrews and some representatives from the community that will determine, that has been actually determining some of the policies and procedures, and we'll bring that up. If it means leaving your kids, I think that might have a big impact. But I think that's a question that we'll have to bring to the council.
We did say that at one point we talked about them asking another guest to watch their kids. And that would be a possibility, but it isn't going to be a volunteer staff member to watch them. It possibly could be another guest. Sometimes they make friends with each other and during the course of the time they're here. And they could ask them if they would watch them if they had something like that.
My question is for during the school year. You said the parents would be watching the children all the time, but the children might get out of school and be brought back at 3:30, and the parents may not be back at the shelter.
The time the parents return from St. Andrews will be based on the first bus. So they will be there 15 minutes prior to the first child. So you don't have to worry about that happening. We do avoid the unaccompanied minor. That's a very high priority.
I have a question for Karen. On the white sheet, Karen, you talked about keeping track of the number of children by age for reimbursement purposes. And I'm wondering if
I think it's children from 0 to 17 or 0 to 18 on the list. So you don't have to break it down within that, I don't think.
so just age 17 would be the breakup.
Yeah.
I also wanted to make a comment about the meetings here, the NA, AA meetings. Where that gets problematic, as much as it sounds like a great thing, is you also run into the situation that you say, well, if NA and AA is important, but I want to go do this, and I'm a shelter guest. I mean, it's hard to say that this is valuable and worthy, but something else isn't. And so that it's going to be something that's going to really have to be considered, because if somebody says, well, I just want to go to the mall, and that's worthy to me, then you're running into, as shelter hosts, you somehow have to make judgments of what's more worthy than something else for people, and so it just gets complicated. And we run into the background check of being alone with kids. So just kind of, these are things that make this complicated.
Question for the, concerning the medical issue. In the back of the logbook, there were things that were, the doctor suggested we should take them to a motel or send them to a motel.
Yes.
My question is, what motel and who pays for it?
Right, that's part of St. Andrews. That would be a time when you'd call Kelly. She wants to be called day or night. Well, daytime's easy. She wants to be called during the night if an issue like that would emerge, if it's something very contagious. And we would most likely be using the same motel that the county and St. Andrews have been using now, the live-in, inn, and suites. And Kelly would make the arrangements and would tell you what is a disease, have them stay in their room till morning and we'll get them over there first thing, or might say that's extremely contagious and they probably should pack up now. So we would be dealing with her on the telephone about that, and she would tell you the address and you would send them in a cab. And those funds come from St. Andrews, and the cab number is going to be in your logbook.
Okay, you,
Two things. I think in regards to the NA and AA, I would not think that would be an issue because I think we were told that the screening process, that people who have drug issues or alcoholic issues wouldn't actually be coming to this shelter. They're already referred to someplace else. Is that not correct?
Yes, but the two things are not
so probably
synonymous, because people who are alcohol-free many times for the rest of their lives go to AA for support.
I see, okay.
So,
okay, I thought maybe that was treated in the same thing. But my question is, I don't know if you consider this or not, but as a former school nurse, one of the biggest things that happens at the beginning of the year is lice. So whether or not your people who screen might want to take that into consideration, not just for the children, but for the adults as well, that everybody be screened for lice before they come to the shelter. Because if you get a note from the school that that child has lice, including the upholstery of everything, so just as a precaution thing, it doesn't assure you that they won't get it, but it will certainly alleviate something. And then to have an action plan, because there are a lot of different remedies out there, some of which that don't have to cost a cent other than buying a bottle of mayonnaise, but which are actually more effective than some of the prescription things. But again, to have a plan of action, because this Kelly may be getting a lot of calls on.
Right, that's a great idea, and actions call, and the taxi would be the less urgent, right? We as a church did Project Home for 10 years. I think an ambulance was called maybe once, and families were sent by taxi several times. It's not common, but it happens. We had a pregnant woman who needed to be taken by ambulance for the delivery. So.
Well, what I meant was that we're not licensed to make that decision.
no, you're not making
Right, you're not making the decision. It is the parents. It is the parents that will have. And again, unless it's urgent and the the parent isn't able to make the decision, then you defer to if it's you all are so smart, and you have made decisions about whether to call ambulances or not all the time. You see somebody down, that person needs an ambulance, and if they get up and start walking, they don't need an ambulance. So we trust you all to make those decisions as best you can, given the information that you have at hand. So, and you will never be alone. There will always be two of you to kind of cross-reference, but ambulance versus taxi, I think most of the time you guys will make good calls. All the time.
okay, you mentioned that there could be teachers and other guests and that coming in to facilitate things with the kids or the adults at some time. Are we going to know that these people, who they are, and that they are okay to come in? Because you just don't open the door for anybody.
These are people from your church during your week. If you have people on your staff, as part of your volunteer team. We're just saying that 2 people sometimes might not seem quite enough, and maybe you'd want more. So you might invite other people to come along from your church to be an extra volunteer. And sometimes, you should be just saying teachers, but anybody who likes to work with kids could do a special project with them or reading with them or something like that. So other people aren't going to be coming off the street to come to the door and say, I'm here to help. This will be people from your church who have already signed up with your coordinator.
You know what, the only exception to that would be if their school district sends out tutors or sends out teachers. You will, Suzanne, our Erica, our on-site coordinators, they will know that ahead of time. They will have that name. That's a person that you can allow in. But other than that, our policy is no guests. That will be pretty black and white, but you know, those occasional times when there will be somebody from the Stillwater School District coming, you'll be notified.
One thing that hasn't come up either when we presented or in your questions is can people come and go between 3 o'clock and bedtime? And the shelter is not a prison. A parent cannot go and leave the children unaccompanied unless there's 2 parents from that family there. But let us say there's a mom and a 7th grade daughter, and they're the family. And they come in around 3 or 3:30 when school is out, and about 4:30, the mom says, my daughter and I need to go over to the shopping center, you know, the walking one right over here, where Best Buy and all that is. For about an hour, we have some things we need to get. Of course they may go. The reason they tell you is so that you know, and there will be a sign-in, sign-out book at the back door, and they sign out in the time, and when they return, they sign in. But of course, they're not in prison, so they certainly may do that. But if there's a second child, they can't leave that child with you. They really need to take whoever's in their household with them if they leave.
Just one question, are the guests allowed to have a car and come and go in a car at all?
You know, some do, and actually they will be parking in front of the front of the garage. There's three what's the word I want? Slots, parking places there, and then there's 2 perpendicular to that. And then that will also be the drop-off spot for the school buses. The pickup and drop-off spot will be in that area. We're not encouraging any kids to be in the main parking lot. There's lots of cars that come and go, and so we're going to use the turnaround right in front of the garages. It brings up another point too, when it's good weather and the kids are wanting to use the playground, we want them to go on the east side so that they're not going through the cemetery or the prayer garden, so that we want whoever is accompanying them, that would be at least 1 parent and 1 volunteer to the playground to go around this side of the church.
And then this is one of those questions, I didn't see it anywhere on your lists. Have they been pre-screened, or do they sign off on something of no firearms, no knives, no whatever?
So one of the things, in addition to the guidelines that Sally went over, is the St. Andrews has guidelines, and no drug use. We're putting up signs, no firearm signs, just like there are in church. But the things that St. Andrews already had on, we didn't include because they can't use drugs, they can't use alcohol. It's standard for St. Andrews. Volunteers can use the parking lot then right in front of the parish house. So that's where the volunteers, where most of you probably parked tonight, on the upper lot, right in front of the house.
How long is the family, how long can they stay there? Is it like 3 months, 6 months?
You know, the average stay right now is about 13 days. And so the turnover is pretty rapid. There is no minimum, maximum. Some are just there for a couple days, some are there for a few weeks. They really haven't had families there for months. The expectation is for families to be very involved in looking for shelter as soon as they enter the program, and part of their money, whatever income, they have to agree to include a savings from the very start, so that they're starting to save for any deposit that they might need right away.
Just before we go on to the next question, a part of that answer that I didn't know until this afternoon, I spent another hour with Kelly, and she said 83% of the people who enter into their program move on into housing. And the average time is 13 days. So it's probably the most effective program of its kind in the metro area. Some are moving into transitional housing, and some are moving into permanent housing. You're probably thinking, who are the other 17%? Okay, so far since they've been operating this program, which began in March of 2011, so about a year and a half, 2 people have been asked to leave the program because of breaking the rules, insisting on smoking inside the building or something like that. Another percentage of people it's been jointly agreed that they're not doing anything in the program and they might as well leave because they're just not settling into doing something about getting a job and getting a place to live. So they move on. Some people were sent on to programs that had more focused help. It began to emerge that there were mental illness issues that required the level of counseling and intervention that a program like this does not have. And so when that surfaced, they were placed with their permission into a program that would have more counseling available to them as was needed. And I'm trying to think what else was in the category, that 17%. But an amazingly high percentage move on into transitional or permanent housing.
I can see some of you getting scared to death when we start talking about emergencies and these health things, and you're thinking, and somebody who was asked to leave the program, you're thinking, what if I'm on shift that night? I worked for 10 years, many times during the year at Project Home, and I never had one emergency ever. I never had to throw anybody out. I never had to do anything like that. But remember, if you're ever in a situation that you don't know what to do and you think, oh, who are those people that I'm supposed to call? Call 9. If it's a serious thing and somebody's in danger, call 911 right away, just like you would in a real serious situation. So you never will be alone. Just call 911. But like I said, that doesn't happen. So we're giving you the worst case scenarios. But, you know, I think 99.9% of the time, it's going to be pretty effortless.
Karen? Which churches are involved in this, or are we still in the process of that?
We are still in the process. We have, from now until the 1st of January, we have all the weeks filled except 3. And those, as would have it, would be over Christmas, over Thanksgiving. I'm still working with some churches to try to get them scheduled. Anticipating that the Christmas week, we may be calling it All Church Week, where we're going to ask people, will you take a day? You know, you can volunteer, we'll each take days. And somebody who celebrates Christmas Day may say, I'll do Christmas Eve, and vice versa. And somebody, and Thanksgiving could do the morning shift, or somebody else could do the evening. That's what we're hoping, that we'll be able to work those things out. That was our first call out. We are going to be calling more churches back that are mildly interested but haven't responded yet. And we'll keep working because we have to get enough churches for 365 days of the year, 52 weeks. Also, we're hoping that after you've done your week experience, you will have enjoyed it, and we'll sign up for another one later in the year. We, at Guardian Angels, we did 4 times a year. We had 4 weeks of Project Home every year, and we didn't find it overburdening at all. We rather enjoyed it. Our volunteers really enjoyed it. So hopefully you would sign up for at least one more. And right now we have 22 churches already scheduled. So hopefully it will be upwards of 30 for sure, 30 or I would say for sure by the time that we reach everybody.
Gary?
I'm just wondering, you said some of the participants are employed, right? So what I'm kind of wondering is, let's say you have, the child gets home from school, say 3:30, but mom is employed until, 5 or whatever, or maybe she works an afternoon shift, or, odd things like that, and it will probably be unsupervised. How does that work?
Yeah, no, that won't happen. If mom is employed, then she has daycare situated. Some of the families have daycare in place. So we will never have unsupervised kids at the shelter. Kids that are without a single parent that's working during the day and not, or during the evening and not there.
Could have grandma.
Well, right, you could have grandma, right.
So they just make arrangements for their child to get
They do,
shelter.
Right, they do.
I just have 2 questions.
Sure.
What if one of the kids who was like a teenager wants to go to the mall with friends? If someone does get a heart attack, am I allowed to do CPR?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure because I didn't want to get sued.
But realistically, most of our guests are families, young families. We don't have that many people people that are even over the age of 45, you know, or 50. The majority of the people are younger. That's not to say they couldn't have a heart attack. It's not to say that, but we don't, yeah, the average age is 6.5.
Oh, okay.
So, and we don't have that many.
So are you with temper tantrums?
I think that isn't there a Good Samaritan law that says if you do a good deed, you can get sued for doing the good deed?
And this is all good deeds. Mary, you had a question?
I'd like to show going on. We would have to report that, correct? Is that done just strictly by this notification on this note, or do you have other people?
Okay, so that's a really good question. And again, you know, it's a judgment call, right? If somebody seems really drunk, really out of it, like you're concerned about drugs, then you call, that's why we have the emergency contact. If you're concerned about a child's safety, that's why you have that key to go in, and that's not okay. And again, we have the emergency contact information. If it's minor, you're not sure, then you can log it, or again, there will always be a phone number that you can call and say, you know, I'm not real sure about this. So that's a judgment call. It would depend on how serious of the situation it is.
And in certain cases, you may have to call the 911 too.
Right. If it's an emergency situation, absolutely.
One more thing on that. Again, you know, you can always call the police, and I'm in conversation with someone from Washington County with mental health services. So if you're just kind of feeling like, you know what, this is weird, but I don't know enough, you can either call Kelly or you can call that Washington County number and just say, hey, I just need to have a confidential conversation with you. I'm not sure if this is something or not. I'm a licensed social worker. Sometimes when I was meeting with a family, I'd walk out and call a county worker myself going like, you know what, I just don't know. And, you know, as Marla said before, we've all lived life a long time. You see things in your neighborhood. You've had that thing of like, should I do something, shouldn't I? Just kind of follow your gut, but we'll have those numbers. So, and it'll be pretty clear. We're not going to give you 12 million numbers so that your stress is trying to figure out which one to call. There will be about 4 numbers that you call in case of an emergency.
I have a question again over here about the books. Right.
Oh, sorry.
If you have, for books that the children read or need or would like to get read to, you have enough books? Or do you need books?
Well, you know, evidently we do have enough books, and we have some excellent books, right? And so that again, really nice offer. If you're looking for a place to donate,
yes,
see me afterwards. We have some suggestions if you have some extra books.
Okay, and what about for like the activities for the children, like coloring, or you have all of that too?
I think we have all of our. We have
a small committee that's working on that, and actually we get a plethora of that kind of, those kind of donations. And so to avoid having just stuff all over the place, we are stopping taking those donations. Maybe mid-year we'll put out a call for more, but we have plenty right now. Thank you very much.
Does your week start on Sunday or Monday? Or?
Good question. It goes Sunday evening to the next Sunday morning.
So Sunday at 3.
Yeah, that's your church's week, from Sunday evening to Sunday
To
morning.
that the guests can use in the shelter. I realize we're in the cell phone day and age.
There's going to be one phone line in the shelter, in the lower level.
We do if a family comes and knocks on the door on our shift.
Nobody.
What do we tell them?
No.
What do you mean on the door?
That could
Yes.
happen. That could happen, no. They have to go through St. Andrews to apply, and it's not open in the evening. If they came in the evening, you don't open the door to them. Just talk to the door and say, no, there's no room, and tell them they have to go through St. Andrews. We've already, just having had a lot of exposure in the newspaper, we've been in quite a few different papers. I don't know if you've seen it in any of them, but those people...
We have a food committee among our 7 committees, and they're preparing a bunch of handouts you're going to get through your church coordinator that answers all the detailed questions about food and food safety. It's discouraged, of course, by Washington County Health Department, but not forbidden. So they say if you do decide to bring something other than a dessert, like a main dish, just be sure if somebody does that the name and contact info of the person who cooked it is kept on file. So if there is, you're laughing, I know. So if there is a foodborne illness, they're able to trace it for everyone's safety. But as long as your church coordinator knows, you know, we had scalloped potatoes, 2 people brought, these are the homes that they came from. And then after a number of days, those can be destroyed. But that's the only stipulation that goes with. There will be ample time, and if you have a menu that is requiring more cooking time than 4:30 to 6, you can serve dinner 10 or 15 minutes later, for sure, it's flexible. Or you can come earlier and get what you want, or you can have Suzanne or Erica. They would have already thawed out their meat if it's from our place, and you can have them start a pork roast at 2:45 or whatever. There's lots of ways to make that work, and you're all smart people, you can figure it out.
Well, and additionally, if you're not on the kitchen duty, maybe that's not your interest, but we will offer some trainings just on kitchen. And again, Suzanne and Erica will be there, and we'll also be doing some training right when you get there. But there'll be some training available ahead of time for people that are doing the dining shift. Okay, since we're on to food, other food questions, because we wanted to kind of get them all at once.
In regards to the menu, so we thought about having a 7-day menu where we'd be serving the same things, keep it simple, hire a dietitian to make out a menu for us for the 7 days. And then we would buy the food in bulk. People wouldn't have to worry about what do I need to do. We could have instructions in regard to preparing each meal every day. And you wouldn't have to worry about, should I do this, should I do that? It's pretty well laid out for everyone.
That's a good input part, and we'll certainly file it away to see if that could be done. The lucky people that are from Guardian Angels and are doing the first week, your menus are already made out by the food committee for that first week. Just because it's the first week we're in operation, and they just want to see that everything goes okay. A brand new kitchen, brand new appliances. They're kind of monitoring it. The chair of the food committee is going to be on hand all of those nights. So you got it made, and we'll certainly take under advisement. You hate to crush the creativity of people that have been waiting for a chance to try some new food to say they're locked in. And also remember, it's not 7 days. You never have to cook on Thursday night.
If you want more information on the background checks, there's a big white packet on how to sign up online. If you want to do it completely manually, it was a yellow packet on your table. We didn't put enough out for everybody because we know that not everybody needs to do that, but just so you know, they're on the table.
Do we do our own food planning, or does Guardian Angel do that? We do our own food planning?
We don't do your food planning for you, but Suzanne and Erica, the 2 staff people, one of the things we mentioned very briefly earlier tonight was that they will telephone your church coordinator about a week or so before you're on and ask your coordinator to go over the menus with them. And what food are you going to purchase? Are you going to purchase your own ground beef and bring it cold, frozen in and thawed, or are you going to use from the staff that we have in the freezer? Those things will all be dealt with between your church coordinator and our paid staff.
Okay, the training sessions, do you have to have that before you start to volunteer?
What training session are you talking about? The child safety?
Yeah.
Virtus. If you are Catholic, yes, you have to take Virtus before you can work. And that's why there's a zillion of them between now and the day we open the shelter. So you have
I would like to give a big shout out to Marla and Karen and Sally for being visionaries for us, getting us into this, and all the work you've gone through. I just feel so privileged and proud to be a part of this.